Hello and welcome. Yesterday we did our payroll quickly rounding off. Now today we're moving on to the creating an amortization table. Okay. So now if you are in this sheet now, if you go to the sheet amortization table, you you find that you've got this data there. Okay. So what do we have here? We have the loan amount, we have got the loan type. This loan has got an end. We've got the balloon payment at the end. So at the end of the series of payments that will be done per period, we'll have a bigger amount that the person has to pay. Now this loan is being given to a customer or a borrower. Okay, so the borrower is getting this loan amount. At a certain period of time they'll end their payment. The balloon payment, this is the on the last payment which they'll be making. This will be the balloon payment that they're going to be making, which is about 100,000. Okay, then the annual rate is 4.7. That's the annual rate. The number of years is a 30-year loan. Number of periods per year is 12, meaning that this payment must be done monthly. Then the first payment date is on this date. So if we want to find the period rate, or rather the monthly period rate, because the number of period per the annual rate is that the number of payments per year, it has to be 12 times, and we've got 12 months, which means there has to be monthly periods payments. So how do we do this? To find the period rate, we say equals. Now we're saying the annual rate divided by the number of months, or the number of periods per year, will give us the period rate. Now what is the total number of periods? Now in the 30 years that we're going to be doing this, how many months are in 30 years? So to do that, we're going to say equals, then we'll say 30 times the number of months in a year. So now our total number of periods goes to 360. Now to create the period payment, Excel is gracious enough. It has given us an easier way to calculate this, which is PMT. So calculating the PMT, immediately you write your formula like the PMT, it will tell you what it's calculating. It calculates the payment for a loan based on a constant payments and constant interest rate. So you have to make sure that the payment rate is constant and the interest rate is constant in order to use the PMT formula in Excel. Alright, so accept the formula by pressing the tab button. Now we want to find out what is the rate. Now our rate here is period rates. Okay, comma, what is the number of payments? Okay, our number of payments is 360. Right, comma, what is our present value? Now the present value here is our loan amount. Now you have to note that this amount is it's a negative. It's coming from the bank going to the client. So from the bank it's a negative, but when it's going to the loaner, it becomes a positive. So here it is going to be a positive, not a negative, comma. Then what is the future value? So the future value of this is the balloon payment at the end. So this balloon payment is negative 100. Now why is it negative 100? It's because this future payment, the balloon payment at the end, this is going to come from the borrower. So the borrower will be releasing the money, which means it's a negative from them. So since it's a negative, you have to be able to indicate that it's a negative, comma. What type of a loan is this? So this loan has got an end. Now if you know anything about Excel, when it shows you that the input has got square brackets around, it means that if you leave it out, it will go with the default. Now our default here is the end period. Okay, so we can click back and we can close, because it will pick up the default to say it's an end. It has got an end period. So if you press enter, you'll see here it will give you the period payment. So per month, this is how much the person has to pay. Now this is negatives, but it's only that if you take it into the currency, sorry, let's click on the what, come here and we say let's get it into that currency mode. So you'll see that it is negative 280,000. Okay, so now this is how much per month the borrower has to pay back. Now to create the amortization table, you now have to have the period, the due date, the PMT, the interest paid, the principal reduction, and the balance. So now let's create the periods. Now our starting period is 0, which means the period that the month in which you're borrowing, you're paying nothing, because that's when you're borrowing. Then our first month. Now how many months are we going to be dealing with? It's about 360. This is the total number of periods, so 360. So if we can't manage to start typing 1, 2, or to type probably 1 there, then press enter, then highlight the data, then drag down, that would be quite cumbersome. So the best way you can be able to do this is, there are 2 ways you can be able to do this. Where there is 0 there, you can highlight where the 0 is, then you can go to the home tab, then you can go to the fill under editing, then you can go to series. Under series, you want the fill to be done in columns, so you check on the columns. Then the step value is 1, then the stop value is 360. So you want to highlight to number this up to 360. The step value is 1, 2, 3, so its increment is by 1. So you're done, just say okay. So if I press control down arrow, you see that numbered them up to 360. Control up arrow, you see that we are back up here. Now in order to, another method that you can be able to use here is Control Z. Let me show you another method you can use here, which is faster. What you would do, let me just zoom in a little bit, come up a little bit there. Okay, so another way you can be able to do this is by right clicking on the solid square there. If you right click, drag down 1 step, then drag back, then let go, then this will pop up. Then you can come and select on the series, then you can state that it's going to be in a column, step 1, and you want 360 numbers there. Then you can say okay, then it will list down. So control down arrow, you see that's how it goes back up there. Now what is our due date? Okay, so now the due date here we're talking about for the first month. Like the first month, what's the due date? So the first due date that we have here, first payment date is this one here. So our first payment date is 7/31/2017. Okay, that's our first payment date. Now what will be our next payment date? So you would probably want to double click and run down the formula or the dates. You see the dates are increasing, but what we want is that per month it will be a month end, the month end of each month. So in order to do that, Control Z, in order to be able to return the month end of each month, what you can do is that if you run this down here, you can come here where we have got the fill handle, you can click on it, then you can be able to make a selection. So if you wanted it to be the same month throughout, you would have said copy cell. But what you want now here is the month ends. If you wanted the weekdays, you'd select there. So you come to the few months, select the few months, and to show you that it will be the month ends of each month. If I press Control down arrow, you'd see that this is when the loan would be able to end. Okay, so back up. Let's look at the PMT. Now the PMT, we've already figured it out here. The payment per month, this is the payment per month, which means it will be, it's a negative value, but here it's supposed to be positive. Okay, so the PMT must be positive. Now you usually used to do an equals, then you say negative, then you make reference in order to make it a positive. Okay, there's no problem with that, but you can do it the faster way, whereby you just say negative, negative, then make reference to the period payment, press enter, and Excel will put the equal sign for you. All right, then you can run it down. Now before you run it down, you just have to make sure that you lock this cell. You have to lock it. You have to lock the cell by pressing F4. all right, if you press F4, it locks the cell. All right, so you can now run down the formula by double clicking on that, and throughout it will have the monthly period, monthly payment period. All right, monthly payment for each month. Okay, now what becomes the interest? In this case, now your interest rate, this is the period rate there. Now you want to find out how much you'll be paying, what will be your interest. Now for you to find out the interest, it will be the interest rate times the balance. Now what is our balance? So our balance, it starts at the loan that you got. So the loan which you got becomes your balance. So it will be equals then the amount of the loan that you got, which will be your balance. Then now to calculate the interest, it becomes equals to your interest rate, which is, where's our interest rate here? The period interest rate. So it's looking for the period interest rate for each month, that, and it has to be locked because we'll always be making reference to this. It's just an absolute reference. F4 times the balance. Okay, so if you press enter, it gives us the interest paid. Now if you look at the PMT, how much you're supposed to pay back, and the interest quite huge. All right, that is how it is mostly when it's at the beginning of a loan. Now what is our principal reduction? Now our principal reduction becomes the PMT minus the interest paid. So you will have our principal reduction there, and our balance becomes our balance, our previous balance minus our principal reduction. Okay, that becomes our balance for the next payment. All right, okay, so we have got three formulas here. So what you can do is that you can actually highlight this, then you can click the down arrow, then you can have all your data there. So control down arrow, then you see that at the end of the balance you have your balloon payment. This is the figure that you have to pay at the end as a whole. All right, control up arrow, sorry, control up arrow, we back up there. All right, so now let us look at something here. We would want to have our table well structured. Now if you want to highlight the table that you are active in, you can press Control A and it will highlight your table, or you can press Control asterisk, or on your number button is times. Okay, it will have all your table highlighted. Now usually in accounting you've got a special way of putting your data, so we'll say Control 1 to have some special effects on this. So we can go under border. So here under border, you would want to have probably you'd have to want the outline and the inside, and probably that's the thickness of the border that you would want. And if you say OK, you have these borders here, but probably what you would want is that the lines in between the columns must be thick. So it can be probably thick, and to do that you can just say Control 1 back there. Then you can probably make a selection of that one. Then you want this effect to be on the beginning, the middle, and there. Okay, so if you can say OK, you see that you have some thick borders. Okay, so on the outline you still have some thick borders. We can just remove the on the outline, so Control 1. So you can say on the outline you want none. So if you say OK, oh, I didn't Control italic for your border, then you can go Control 1. Then you say on your, you want, if you want none you can remove. Let's see, okay, let me do that again. Okay, Control 1. So I want on the outline, on the outline I don't want the lines, but on the inside. Okay, so let's come here, say OK, let's give it Control A, Control 1. On the inside we want the borders, and we want them thick, double them. So we want there, and there. Then would probably not want on the outline. Okay, we remove on the outline, then we can say OK. Alright, so we see that, oh, I haven't removed on the outline. Control A, back and forth. Alright, on the outline I wouldn't want, on the outline I don't want I want a smaller border, like it should be smaller. Okay, so that inside it must be dignified. If I come here, okay, now this makes sense. Okay, so this is what you would want. Then if we look at the data here, we would probably want to round the data so that we have the numbers rounded off. So for instance, for this one we could want to round off the data to probably 2 decimal places, because that's, yeah, in accounting. So it'd say round, okay, comma, we want it to round to 2 decimal places. Yes, put that for me. So which means all the PMT data is being rounded off to 2 decimal places. When it comes to the interest rate, we would probably also want to round it off. So we can come here, then we say let's see our interest rate. We can't quickly round it from the decimal places because it will disturb our figures there. Okay, so here what we are multiplying with, our interest rate, control up arrow, our interest rate is that and that. Okay, let's try to round it, escape, then we can come and say round to two decimal places, press enter. Okay, that's why we couldn't round it, because the decimal places, so we'll leave the interest rate untouched. Okay, all right, so our interest rates remain like that. So if our principal reduction, okay, there it is. So our paid interest, but what we can round off is our paid interest. So we can round off our interest paid by saying round, then we are rounding it off to two decimal places, close it. Okay, so we can run down the formula. So because of this rounding offs, we don't have to worry about the principal reduction, because where it's picking the data from, it's already rounded. Okay, which means even this will be rounded, but this affects the balloon payment. If we go down, control down arrow, you see that the balloon payment, there is a slight reduction in the balloon payment, but the purpose of rounding off is to avoid those extra decimals that can cause some misleading. So try this out, tell me how it goes, okay. All right, see you tomorrow for another epic lesson.